It's just a pleasure to be here. As you see, I'm a member of the board of PMI, so I'm going to tell you some stories from the point of view of PMI. I also work and do research on this topic, so I'm going to share some of my own experience. So basically, three things I'm going to cover: the PMI perspective. We have one very important document, Thought Leadership, which is the pulse of the profession. So I'm going to cover that, some of the key findings, and focus on talent. Then I'll tell you more about the link between execution and project management, and finally some kind of examples that work. So that's what I want to cover quickly. Before I start going into the matter, I always like to explore about people, about how we work as human beings. It tells you a lot about yourself and how can you motivate other people. Because in the end, it's all about people. Whatever you do, strategy, execution, projects, it's all about people. I don't know if you know about this hypothesis. It's called the happiness hypothesis. It's from a guy, Jonathan Haidt from the University of Virginia. Has somebody heard about the happiness hypothesis? No? So basically what Jonathan says is that we human beings are like an elephant and a rider. Inside you, you have an elephant, a big elephant, and a rider. And the elephant is the emotional part of yourself. It's automatic, it's the running. It's the subconscious, and it's very short term. The elephant has to have something in exchange very quickly. The elephant will only move if it gets a return very quickly. Yeah, a quick win. Otherwise, the elephant, forget it, will not move. You all have an elephant inside you. You and organizations too. Okay? I'd like to start with this because it relates later on to my presentation. On the other hand, you have the rider. The rider is rational, is disciplined, is conscious, thinks long term. What happens here? There's a constant battle between your elephant and your rider. Who tends to win? The elephant. All the time. There's nice weather. Instead of going to the gym, where does the elephant tell you to go? To the park or to the pub. Yes? That's the elephant. If you're paying attention to me, the rider will say, no, pay attention to Antonio. He might say something which makes sense. The elephant will say, no, check your BlackBerry, do your iPad, whatever. That's the elephant. Easy, quick wins. Okay? What's important in order to get somewhere is that these two people, these two entities are aligned. And what's even more important, that there's a path. If you don't have any direction in life, if you don't know where you're going, then you get them both lost. So you need to have a direction. This is the same apply in companies. You need to have everybody aligned and a direction. You will see that later on in my presentation. So remember, I'm sure you remember this for a few days. The elephant is pushing you all the time, and your rider is trying to put some sense to your life. Okay? So PMI pulse of the profession. This is one of the key thought leadership tools and reports that we issue. Every 2 years, there's a new pulse of the profession. We want to know what we're doing as project managers. How are we doing? How much is invested? How many projects fail? What are the best practice? Who are the best performance? And the pulse of the profession is not just PMI. We gather information from other reports, from PwC, from Booz Allen, from Deloitte, from The Economist, and we put everything together. It's something that we use to share with every project manager. It's for free, so you can get it there and download. I will just cover the key points, but you can read it in extent. The other thing that we use with the pulse of the profession, we do a big press release everywhere in the world. We want leaders, business, governments to understand better what we do. We want them to understand the value of project management. We want them to understand how much money they're losing because they're not doing well projects. So for us, it's one of the key elements and tools to project and to increase the perception of value in project management across the world, which is perfect for us. That's what we're doing all. A couple of statistics, results from this research. We talk about the money at risk. So if you invest 1,000 or 1 billion US dollar and a project fails, 129 million are lost, are wasted, are thrown away, are burned out. Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that every year gets wasted, thrown away, which you could do something else. Okay, so that's still a big room for improvement. I'm sure you heard about this. You know, Kickstarter, 84% of the top 50 projects were delivered late. Kickstarter, crowdfunding in the US, the biggest website with new projects, new ideas, 84% are delivered late. This one you heard, we're not very far from there. The CIO was fired of BBC because he didn't manage the project right. The big transformation going into media from the old tapes, fired, CIO from BBC, bad project management. I heard, probably you heard about the biggest project in the US, the biggest project for Obama, healthcare.gov, a big disaster. They went live, they were not able to cope, they were not ready. Another example of bad project management. So it's everywhere, it's there. The biggest governments in the world having problem executing projects. Yes? What happens in the UK? So from the statistics, a couple from the UK, 52 of the projects in the UK I deliver on time. Okay, there's the average. Global average is about 50, 52. So in the UK, you're okay in terms of delivering. Half of the projects are delivered on time. It's not great. It could be better. 64 of the projects in the UK meet goals. So maybe they deliver late, but at least they deliver some of the goals. So again, you're also around the standard, global standard. You can read more in the report. I'm not going to spend too much time. What we call is identify high-performing organization, meaning that about 90% of the projects they run, they are all on time, on budget, and deliver the benefits. So if you have these three and 90% of all your portfolio, then you're categorized as high-performing. In the world, there's about 12% of the sample. In the UK, only 8%. So there, you're below the average. Yeah, you're not good. There are not too many high-performing organizations as per the PMI study. For example, if you look at training and talent, which I'm going to talk briefly later on, a high-performing organization would have an ongoing training on project management. They would have a process to develop PMIs, or project managers, to mature the organization in terms of project management. There will be transfer of knowledge when projects are finished. They would have a defined career path, how much we want this, and how slowly it goes to have a proper career path for project managers. And then, of course, a real knowledge transfer process. So that's what a well-performing, high-performing organization would have in terms of training and development. There's good news about the research too. We found out, and several research prove that between 2010 and 2020, there will be about 15 million projects, 15 million projects in jobs in project management. So every year there will be about 1.5 million jobs, 1.5 million new jobs in project management in the world. So that's statistics. There's needs for project manager in the UK and outside the UK. I teach at universities, and I like to show the students, okay, you're in my class, why it should be here? And I just go to LinkedIn, there's 80,000 projects, jobs in project management today. 80,000 jobs available in project management. Not bad. Yeah, and the research says that every year, 1.5. Most of these jobs will happen in China, India. In the UK, it's about 170,000. Statistics, but it gives you a trend. Okay? Another part of the research that we do is on salaries, and we notice that people who have the PMP, the project management certification, earn some more money. It's not at a huge gap. Yeah, maybe it's a couple, $10,000 more, but still it makes a difference. It's being recognized. It's something that It's accreditation. It helps you to be seen as a professional project manager. So in terms of salary, there's some benefits too. So there's a big need for project managers. The issue is that there's not too much talent. So there's a shortage of talent. And we're going to see what we mean by talent. As you know, as soon as there's a crisis, talent is cut. Yeah, talent management, talent development is one of the first things that companies turn down. They try to cut costs there. Yet it's one of the most important things that you see when you read the press. So we talk about the talent triangle. It's three things. So we have the technical project manager or project management skills, what we bring with PMP, with the skills that we have as project manager. Then you have leadership and understanding of the strategy and the business. This is what forms the triangle, the talent triangle. Okay? We often are focused on this one. We realize that not actually the best project managers, they understand about leadership and they understand about the business. And you can see some companies are focusing on hiring people for their technical skills. That's about 20%. We hire you because you're a project manager or because you're an accountant. Yeah? Some other companies, like 40%, this is based on Deloitte research, hire because you have leadership potential. Okay? What we see is that project manager, you need to have both three skills today. And it's very hard. You need to develop them because often the company will not pay. So that's why I guess some of you are here trying to learn new things to apply later. My company didn't pay for me to get trained. It's me reading, participating in events, and so on. Otherwise, I would just stay where I am. This is very interesting. The VP, senior VP of Google, one of the companies which is hiring the most, an interview last week or this week, the 5 traits of a company tops talent, he says. It's learning abilities, ability to process on the fly, is the ability to pull together disparate bits of information. What would we do as project managers? We do all the time this. We try to get from pieces of information something that makes sense to understand how the projects are going. Another thing which he says, the ideal employee can help the firm in adopting to make market disruption. Okay, that's what we're for. We try to help companies to be on the edge, to be there, to launch new products, new services. And finally, which is very important, top talent tends to embrace change and enjoys the challenge on working in an environmental where everything is unpredictable. They tend to be more innovative and flexible in the approach to solving problems. So basically, that's us. That's the project managers. We're constantly in change. We understand change, and we can live with change. We can cope. This is Google's Senior Vice President of HR. They're looking for this kind of skills. Okay, if you have questions, let me know. I leave very little time at the end because I'm always rushing just to cover as much as I want. So if you have questions, let me know. So leading will become more important than managing. We all know that. You need to have both if you want to be a good project manager. Like I tell you, this is kind of the jobs that you see now in the market. Probably you know AXA, the leading insurance company. They were looking recently for strategic portfolio manager. Now they're looking for portfolio managers. Very interesting. I show this to my MBA students. Guys, you need to go for these kind of jobs. Yeah, you know projects, you know business. But what strikes me most in telling you the importance of project management, I want to give you just 2 examples. Everybody knows Nike? Yes? Nike, they have a headquarters for Europe in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, very close to the Amsterdam. Corporate strategy and development manager. What would you imagine what kind of skills does a strategy manager need without reading? You would imagine strategic planning, market analysis, market research. What do they say here? Nike, as the first core competency needed for a strategy manager, project management. This you would not see even 3 years ago. Today, for being strategy, they ask for project management skills. I'm not making it up. This is on the press. This is jobs that I find every week. This is a big transformation. It's not so much planning, it's about execution now. And how do they execute? With projects. Another example, I'll just show you two, I have many. UPS, I guess you know two. Strategy manager, what do they ask? Support the strategy directors with developing strategies and building business cases by conducting research. Okay, that's strategy. Fine. Main responsibilities, manage projects, develop project plans, present recommendations to senior manager, and prioritize the projects. That's again, strategy manager. Today they ask for project management. Two things which I like a lot at the bottom, sorry, skills, project management skills, experience with managing complex. We can all apply to this job, guys. Now we can apply for strategy managers. And last, which is very important, experience with selling project outcomes and strategic concepts to C-level management. UPS asking project managers to help them sell the value of project management. Amazing, very recent job. Okay, so we're in a very good track here. This is the reality. You can see many statistics, these are real jobs. And I think we all can apply for them. You need to have leadership, business, and project management. Okay, so that's a bit in a nutshell, very quickly, because I like to share many things with you, as is the last time of the conference, but that's about the pulse of the profession, the importance of project management, the money at risk that you have when you lose projects, and the key statistics. An area where I focus, and I want to share, that's more my perspective as professional. I work in this space, I teach, I research, so I want to share a little bit, also like 10-15 minutes, on the link between strategy and projects. It's a bit different than what you usually see, so that's why I like to share it. Maybe it makes you think differently when you go back to work tomorrow. So what I did, and some research, is we look at the top 100 companies in the world. You know most of them here, yes? And what we realize is that most of their strategies are very similar. They all want to grow, they all want to expand, they want to increase market share, they want to sustain the world, and they want to, of course, give more return to their investors. This is common sense. Wherever you work and you look at the competition, they will want the same. Yeah, another part of the research, top 10 companies according to Fortune 500, first company in the world, ExxonMobil, Walmart stores, and so on. We check what do they want these companies for the next years. Growth, market share, shareholder value, customer satisfaction, not so much because they're on the top, so they don't really care too much. They can afford that. But the rest, guess what happens at the rest of the list? It's almost green. They all want the same. So what's the point? We all want the same. We want to go to China. We want to develop new products. We want to increase market share. And why some companies make it, why some other companies don't make it? That's the question. You can copy the strategies. You go to the websites. You can basically copy them. But some companies are more successful than others. And that's what intrigues me most. Strategic objectives for your organization, they all want the same. They want to grow, they want to innovate, they want to improve their reputation with customers. Pretty much the same. It makes sense. Okay? So what it means here is strategic initiatives are projects and everywhere. Also, I talk sometimes to public sector, and there they have the biggest projects, bigger than corporates. They're investing billions in development in Africa, in building back countries which were destroyed. They're spending billions. So governments are also very important in the area of project management. One of the things which strikes me more is why when you go up and you get an appointment with the senior leader, the CEO, you have half an hour, and the guy says, what are you doing? What's your job? I say, I'm project manager. What's that? What does it mean? What's the added value? Yeah? They don't really understand what we're doing. I don't know here in the UK, but where I live and where I've been speaking, they don't really understand the value of project management. I'll show you why, okay? So one of the things that I realized is, I don't know if you know all these guys. There, the first one there. Henry Ford, yes, so he developed the T model. Cars for everybody, 90s 15, 90s 20. Everybody could afford a car. It was the same model, yeah, the T model, black, but it made it so cheap so that most of the people could have one. Yes, Deming here, he's the father of TQM, Total Quality Management. This one is the father of scientific management. You know, Taylor is? So he was going to the plants also 1920s and check how much time it would take you in the chain. So if you would be nailing something, it would, with a clock, check how much time it would take. So bottom up, trying to make efficiencies. Peter Drucker, this one you know, the 5 forces. Yeah, Porter, Mintzberger, Hammer business process reengineering. He developed all this concept about improvement. What happens with these guys? None of these guys, and we research their publications, their books, none of these guys talks about project management. They don't mention the word projects in their theories and their books. They don't mention it. They don't mention project management is important. They don't mention that project management is important for executing a strategy. They don't talk about it. About 35% of the senior executives in the top 100 companies in the world, they have an MBA. They go to a business school. Yeah, here you have London Business School, you have INSEAD, you have Wharton, Harvard, and so on. They go to these schools. 35% of the senior executives have gone through one of these. What's shocking here is that we look at the top 100 MBAs in the world, and guess what? How many of these business schools teach project management to all the CEOs, senior leaders? How many? Top 100. Talking about Harvard, Wharton. How many? 8%? Two out of 100 business schools teach project management as a core competency, as something that senior leaders should learn. That's something that they will use later on. Only 2 MBAs in the world, and they're not even in the top 25. The only one in the UK is Cranfield University. They're in the top 100. They're about, I don't know where, 26. So these guys don't teach you. Yeah? The gurus, they don't speak about project management. The MBAs, they don't teach you project management. The college, unless you go for a project management specialized master, you don't learn. I never learned. I did an MBA in London Business School. I studied university in Spain. Nobody taught me project management. And the same for you. Afterwards, you are interested, and then you go for a PMP or Prince 2 or whatever, but it's just because you are interested. And the other thing which is very important, and I show also to my students, and this will open your eyes as well, what matters today, it's changing, what matters today. I don't know if you know this magazine, it's called Harvard Business Review. Yes? It's what CEOs read when they're flying on their planes. That's what they read. Every big guru wants to be published in Harvard Business Review. It's what shapes the next thing coming in management. Okay, so what we did, we researched. We look at Harvard Business Review. You can have a look at how many articles have been published since they were founded, about 40 years ago. What will come on the top is what matters, what people are reading, where you can have a career. What comes in the bottom, it doesn't matter so much. So these are the numbers. What do you see on the top? What matters the most in a business? Marketing, finance, strategy, HR, leadership. 4,750 articles when I did the research. When I look at later on, you continue, 14th place project management. 299 articles compared to 4,750 for marketing. Strategy execution, which is the other term I talked to, only 410. This explains everything. This explains why people don't understand, or they don't care, or they don't have the time. They want to hear to marketing. They want to know the finances. They want to know what's coming next. When I teach to project managers, I tell them, if you want a career, don't go into project management. If you want to have a quick career, go to marketing, finance. You have more chances. It's much more structured. You have a career path which is real. Project management is fascinating. You will never get bored. But you don't know where you're going to end up in a year, in 2 years. You have no clue. Okay? So this is changing. You see more articles now in Harvard Business Review on this part here, on execution and project management. But this explains the huge gap. This explains why there's a ceiling. This explains why the CEOs don't put so much attention on what we're doing. Okay? But we're trying to change that. We're working on changing that. So just very quickly, another perspective to just make you feel less frustrated. This makes you understand, okay, makes sense. The gurus don't talk, the MBAs don't teach, and the magazines don't talk about us. So, okay, now we're fighting here to get better. The other thing which is very important is, remember the gurus. So we look at 100 years backwards. And what you see, there's two concepts which I use, is running the business and changing the business. This is very important that you understand the difference. What has happened over 100 years? You have the gurus who have influenced very much the way companies are run. So you have starting with Taylor and Ford and Deming and Drucker and so on. They've advised companies to manage this part much better. The advice of the gurus is how to run your business better, how to delegate, how to be more efficient, how to automate, how to put an SAP system, how to outsource. That's all about this part. So what's happening is that running the business has become very lean. Yeah, you cannot really make it more efficient. You can reduce costs by firing people. Yes, you can do that. Okay, but improvements here are very, very limited. On the other hand, companies are having more and more projects because all the things that you do here come through projects. So in the bank I work, for example, a few years ago, we were, out of 18,000, we were 2,000 project managers or people working on the change. Today we're 4,000 people working on the change. I'm sure it's the same in most of the companies that you work for. Most of the companies, you have more people working on the change. That doesn't mean that you are all project managers, but you're dealing with the change. You're implementing change in your organization. So there's these two very important concepts. This is well managed, and here is where we come. Project management, program management, portfolio management. But we have a lot of time to catch up. If you remember, PMI was founded in 1969, so a lot to catch up. Prince to the same, very late. So we have many years to catch up. And that's why you see the gap. That's why you see that we're always running behind. Any questions? No? Quickly, very quickly. Yeah.
You ask people how long an activity is going to take. They think it's going to take a year. They tell you 2 years in their contingency. So they deliver on time, but what does that mean? They're actually taking probably longer than they needed to on the activity. So just wondering how you get around that phenomenon, or any views on that?
It's a bit like when you fly Ryanair. I fly Ryanair, and they kind of take a margin so that they make sure that they're always on time, even if they take off late. So the same for projects. And I don't think there's really a solution. It's one of the issues that you have with projects is how difficult it is to estimate. And even if you do the same project twice, you will have different results. So I don't know, it depends from which angle you look at it. If you're a contractor, if you're buying somebody's services to deliver a project, then you try to be a bit more stringent on the time, or work in waves, or work in agile. But I agree, it's a big issue. And yes?
I was just going to say, it's like the more stringent you are, the more you're going to beat people up when they get it wrong.
Yes.
The more time they add on. So it's kind of counterintuitive. You want to work with people on the one hand, but then sort of hold them to account on the others. So it's a bit of a...
Yes, you find the right balance, and often companies just get it down into the time so that they can win the contract. The same for cost, it's the same. They go down with cost. Very recently, the Panama Canal, the canal in Panama, they wanted to expand it, and they have some contractors, and they chose the less expensive, but now they have problems. They had big issues because they didn't estimate well, so they were asking for more budget. So this, I think, you will have all the time, and it's like you say, finding the right balance, and try to be honest with your estimates, but it's very hard. It's one of the biggest issues that you see in estimating. Homecare.org, the one I show you, also they had a deadline, and they had announced it, so they had to go live. But they didn't manage very well. They were not there yet. Okay, quickly. So what I'm saying is that you have two ways in a company organization. You have the running of the business, and you have the changing of the business. Okay? Just these concepts are important. In one of the research I carry out, I asked how much of the time, resources, and people do you put in running, and how much do you put in changing? About 80 to 100% is put on the run, is the priority. 0 to 20% is put on the change, on average, in an organization. Okay, so running is still very important. Where do you spend most of the time? Think quickly. Think about where do you spend most of the time here? Managing cost or future strategies? What do you mean? Cost, okay. Quality control or creativity? Where do you spend most of the time? Quality control. Selling existing products, developing new products. Where do you spend most of the time? Selling. Operational efficiency or international expansion. Where do you spend more time? Okay. Logistics, brand development. Okay, we all get the same answers here. It's amazing. We all get the same answer. We're like 50 people providing services in innovation. Okay? I think we pretty much, what happens? What do you see here? Where do we spend our time? Where do we spend our time? Running the business. Where do you create most value? Yet we're pulled to run the business. Quickly. So run the business, this is how companies are organized. We see that. Traditional way with the departments. This is how you run a business. What happens with running the business? You get short-term returns. Yeah, it's commercial objectives. For running the business, you need to sell. Anybody who has run a business, anybody who's an independent consultant, they need to sell. They need to sell themselves. Yeah, otherwise you're dead. If you don't sell, you're dead. Very soon. Is what keeps the company. But what happens if you do only running the business? You don't grow. You don't grow. And you're dead too. If you just run the business, you're dead. Because the competition will come very quickly with something better or cheaper. You're dead. Okay? What happens with change? Change is transversal. It's horizontal. It's everything. That's the projects that we are all managing. What happens with change? You get medium and long-term returns. Only in the medium term. You don't get very short-term returns. There's high uncertainty. I work for a bank. We bought a bank in the Netherlands. We thought it was so strategic. It was making so much sense. It all collapsed. We didn't get any return. High uncertainty in projects. But it's how companies grow. Okay? And it's very close to strategic objectives. So what happens? There's a huge tension between running and changing the business. Huge tension between both. What happens when a company goes on strike? I don't know if companies strike in the UK. Do they? No? What happened? Do they stop their projects? No, they stop running the business. That's where it's painful. So I think as project managers, we need to understand the importance of running the business. Only if you understand that we built on running the business, that we need the running of the business, then our value will be appreciated. Okay, quickly. In an academic term, this is very interesting. I'm doing a PhD on the topic because I find it so fascinating. What do you see here? There's a term in academic. Yes? Meaning that you're good with your right hand and you're good with your left hand. What do you call that? Ambidexterity. In business, in organizations, it's called ambidexterity. You're good at running the business, you're good at changing the business. How many here are ambidextrous? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 2, yeah? Very few people. Were you born ambidextrous? You were born. You trained, okay? Ambidexterity you can train, but you cannot assume that every company is good at running and changing the business. You cannot, it's not possible. You're good at running or you're good at changing. It's so similar as human beings. That's why so many companies fail in execution, because they're not good at ambidexterity. They're not good at changing at the same of running. A little research, okay? I like to add research all the time to prove what I'm saying. Research in the UK by a colleague of mine in the university, Manuel Hesman, George Jeep, guy from Harvard. They investigated 250 quoted UK companies over 20 years. The performance, 1984, 2003, 20 years. Out of 215 companies, they wanted to see how many were good at running their business. So how many of these 215 companies were consistently overperforming over 20 years against the competition? Guess how many of the 215 companies were performing well during 20 years running the business? How many? 80? 26. Only 26, 1/10 were good at running the business. But how many of these 26 were good at running and changing, executing projects? Okay, I'll show you the companies. You know them all. How many of these 26 companies are good at running the business and changing the business? How many good at are operations and project management at the same time?
5.
How many?
5.
5? Yeah? Which one? 20 years operating at the top and changing, transforming themselves. I'll show you. You will be surprised. You will be surprised. 3 companies out of 215 UK companies were good at changing and running the business at the same time over 20 years. So it's not easy what we're doing. It's not easy what companies are doing to do both things at the same time. Again, that explains a lot of why project management is so difficult, why so many projects fail. Because you need to have the combination of both. Okay, I have 5 minutes. So what I'm saying is that you need to look at, not like this, but project management is part of running the business. And that's what I experienced in my job as a portfolio manager. I built a very nice portfolio management system. We had CA, we had a board, but it didn't make sense if I didn't understand the business. It didn't make sense if I didn't connect to the budgeting cycle of the bank. It didn't make sense if I didn't link to the HR, if I didn't manage the running and the changing. It was not making any sense. But that's what you see most of the time sold. We can do this. It's fine. It's the first step. It only makes sense and adds value if you do it together. Okay? I will go very quickly to the last part, but basically, this is my job. I was trying to align the culture and the skills, the finance, the organization, the process, the methods, and the tools. And you need to find the right balance between running and changing. If you don't have that balance, and most of the time it's all on the run, you will not deliver. You will not execute the strategy. Okay, your job doesn't make sense. You might be successful in one project, in 2, but executing a strategy, you need to be good at both. Okay? So that's what we did. Basically, for each of these areas, that was my job in the bank. Basically, you would see that all these elements were much stronger in the run. And we built more focus. We had multi-year budgets. This was one of the biggest issues. To align to the budgeting cycle, which is, I guess, for most of the companies, is yearly. My projects are never yearly. Yeah, they last 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, but not from January till December. They stand when we need to start them. And then what happens at the end of the year, your budget is gone. You need to ask for another budget. So it was very difficult to align to the budgeting cycle, which is what drives companies, is running the business. Okay, we had the board reporting to top management, the executive. We aligned processes, not just the PPM process. That's very easy. To implement PPM is very easy. What's difficult is to align it to the running in all what you are. The same for tools. You can have the best PPM tool. It doesn't work if you don't align it to the running of the business. Okay, clear? And I want to finish with a very little story. I think I have 3 minutes. I always finish right on time so that there's no questions. So this is, again, back to individuals. I always start with individuals. It has so much that we can learn from us, from yourself, how the brain works, the elephant. If you manage to pay attention for 45 minutes at 3 o'clock, is that you're aligned, your reader and your elephant. The elephant is happy, is learning something new. Okay? And I want to finish with something, a real story, and just to tell you how execution can happen by very simple things. So this is the story of, it's a convention, healthcare convention, 2004. And there's a CEO of a very small non-profit company, Matthew Brown. And there were not more than people here, so about thousands of people in this convention in the US. And Matthew stands up, asks for the mic, and he says, here's what I think we should be doing. I think we should save 100,000 lives, and I think we should do that by June 14, 2006, 18 months from today. Takes the mic, he says that, in front of all these healthcare people, hospital directors. Some is not a number, and soon is not a time. Here's the number, 100,000. Here's the time, June 14, 2006, 9 a.m. Okay? What do you think? This guy is nuts. No? This guy, what does he want to do? The audience, a large group of healthcare leaders, was surprised. They just didn't see how Matthew Brown, just a normal CEO, could mobilize 3,000 hospitals. That's about 75% of the beds in the US. 75% of the US to buy into this crazy idea to save 100,000 lives in 18 months. Totally crazy. What happened? Just a bold idea. That's what you want, project managers, leaders, to have this. In the end, it's all about this. They created this campaign. It's a true campaign. You can Google. This is one of the ads. 100K lives campaign. Some is not a number. Soon is not a time. Amazing. But they were proved wrong. We were all proved wrong. Exactly 18 months later, Matthew took the stage again and said, hospital enrolled in the 100K lives campaign have collectively prevented an estimate of 122,300 avoidable deaths. And, as importantly, have begun to institutionalize new standards of care that will continue to save lives. They went beyond what seems crazy in 18 months. I'm not finishing here. There needs to be some takeaways. Very important, on July 2010, Matthew left. He retired. Okay? But his legacy continued. How do you manage to keep the legacy? How do you manage to stick? By December 28, 4,050 hospitals joined the 100K campaign, and it was not just the US, Brazil, Canada, and Denmark. We all can do that. Yes? This is real leadership, change, project, involving people. What's the secret here? What's the secret? How can one individual with no hierarchical power inspire and guide thousands of executive physicians and nurses, 3,000 hospitals to save 120 lives? What did he do? Yeah, he put a smart objective, very ambitious, very new, but there was something else.
Ownership.
Huh?
Ownership. Responsibility and accountability.
Ownership. Ownership, yes, ownership. But it's very simple. 3 things. The idea found a way into the heart of the people. You need to touch. Everybody wants to save lives. All the people there in the convention wanted to save lives. Okay? So it was easy to tap. If I tell you we want to do that, we will follow. We are all very passionate about project management too. We work for free. We love this. We are touched. It's in part, we want to be part of the journey, yes, of transforming project management. So he touched the hearts of all these hospital people. The second thing they do, it found a way in their heads. So the people understood what they had to do. They developed very simple procedures, 6, that people could use in every hospital. Very simple. So you provide the means to do that to anybody who wants to buy in, who wants to go in this journey. Yeah, they developed one procedure which was everybody who was in the hospital checking somebody with a heart attack could call the nurse if something was going wrong. They saved many lives like that, okay? And finally, it was in the hands of the people, so they carry on. The idea stick. Not because Matthew left, the idea would stop. They could carry on. They could continue saving lives. And I believe, just to finish, that you all can do that. We all can do that. We just need to we just need to think, make things simple, and touch the people. And when I have a large project, I try to think about this. How can I inspire people? How can I motivate? This is the best project management you can imagine. People work with passion for that. And that's it. I think everybody should be ready. It's a lot of common sense. So thank you very much. Thank you for staying so late. Thank you. Questions? It's 3:45. Any questions? Yeah, we have one.
So I understand very well what was the story about operation and change, but I don't understand why now the most important business school didn't start all about project management inside their programs.
It's about the business school, so the question is why they don't start now doing project management more?
Right away, yeah.
Yeah, right away. It takes a lot of time to change their mindset. I'm talking to most of these business schools to give project management, but they're all based on the model which comes from the past. So you will see all what is for running the business. Accounting, finance, marketing, sales, HR. Project management is taught under operation management. So it's changing, it takes time, but you can see that. Stanford is trying, LBS, but to make it mandatory, it takes a lot of time. I don't know why, it's just you're fighting against years of history. We're trying, we're going to make it, huh? Sooner or later. Any other question? Yes?
You haven't talked much about portfolio management.
Yeah.
Your day job.
Yeah.
Just wondering what methodology you use or framework as part of that.
Well, we took a bit of the PMI framework, but basically what you use is we use demand management. So demand management is something that many companies have pieces and pieces there. So we built a kind of a customized approach for demand management, and then the prioritization. It's a pity, I just had 45 minutes. You've seen like 60 slides, even if you don't realize. I had another 50 on portfolio management, but that will be another time. But my key thing was make it simple, make it business. I apply all the theory, and the theory is nice, but it needs to be very practical. You cannot talk about portfolio prioritization. One thing that every theory will tell you, you need to align all your projects to the strategy. Imagine, we didn't have a strategy, so how can you align it? You might have a strategy, but you don't have objectives. How can I align? And then I have 120 projects. Imagine aligning 120 projects to strategy. Impossible. So you need to use a lot of common sense. That's the best thing. Just develop a process and lots of common sense and talk the business. It's about growth, cost cutting, compliance. It's not the way you see the world, it's the way they see the world. And you need to adjust. And that's the way you sell the business case for portfolio management. What you need is a big sponsor. My sponsor was the vice president, CIO together, business and IT, and that helped a lot. But it took me like a year just to understand for them what we were doing. They couldn't understand it. Okay, keep it simple. Thank you very much. Last question. Yeah, I can.
If you have a meeting in London pretty soon, maybe a couple of months' time, is there a possibility of you coming and talking about portfolio management?
Yeah, portfolio, I have like 100 slides. I can do them in half an hour.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Watch this space, yeah?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Sure. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Have a good trip back. See you.